Last time we asked whether the written record can actually be trusted, and we saw that the Bible should not be quickly dismissed as myth, legend, or corrupted tradition. It claims God was involved in what was written. It shows God working through real people to preserve his message. It is honest about the failures of its own people. It's rooted in history. It was preserved through manuscript transmission, and it contains prophecy as one of God's own ways of confirming his message. So if this written record is worth taking seriously, then the next question is, where is the story heading? Because according to the Bible, the story of restored life does not ultimately center on a book. It centers on a person. What's up everyone, Dane here. Welcome to In Context, the channel that's all about helping you better understand the Bible in its proper context. In this episode, we're going to keep following the storyline and ask a simple question. Who is the written record pointing to? Because if we only read the Bible as a collection of disconnected stories, we may miss the larger picture. From creation to the fall to Abraham, Israel, David, and the prophets, the biblical story is moving somewhere. And as we follow that story, the hope of restored life becomes increasingly connected to a promised person. To see that, we need to go back to the garden. In Genesis, God creates a good world, humanity is made in his image, and in the garden, God provides access to the tree of life, the means by which human life could be sustained. But after humanity rebels, humanity is removed from the garden, access to the tree of life is lost, and death enters the human experience. But even there, in the middle of judgment, God gives a hint that the story is not over. Speaking to the serpent, God says there will be conflict between the serpent and the woman, and between his seed and her seed. And eventually, the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head. At this point in the story, there are a lot of details we don't know yet. We're not told his name, we are not told exactly when he will come, we are not told everything he will do. But we are told enough to know this: the damage caused by the serpent will not have the final word. Someone connected to humanity will eventually deal with the serpent. So from the beginning, the hope of restoration is not merely connected to an idea, it is connected to a coming person. But as the story continues, that promise begins to narrow. Later, God calls a man named Abram, whose name would become Abraham. God tells him to leave his country and go to a land that God would show him. And God makes promises to him. He promises to make him a great nation. He promises to bless him. He promises that through him, all the families of the earth would be blessed. That matters because the hope of restoration is not only for one individual. It's not even only for one nation. God's promise to Abraham was never meant to stay with Israel alone. The blessing was meant to reach the nations of the world. And as the story continues, God also promises Abraham descendants, a seed, a family line, and Abraham believes what God says. That becomes an important pattern in the biblical story. God speaks, God promises, and the right response is to believe him. But the storyline keeps narrowing. The promised blessing will come through Abraham's family, then through Isaac, then through Jacob. And later, when Jacob blesses his sons, the focus narrows again. A ruler is connected to the tribe of Judah. The language of kingship begins to come into view. So now, the hope is not only connected to the coming seed, it is connected to a coming ruler, someone from the line of Judah. And eventually the storyline narrows even more through David. David becomes king over Israel, and God makes a covenant with him. God promises that David's house, kingdom, and throne will be established. Now the hope of the story is connected to a king from David's line. But this promise is bigger than David himself. David dies. His sons die. The kingdom divides, Israel fails, Judah fails, the kings fail. The people repeatedly turn away from what God said. So if the promise is going to stand, God himself will have to be faithful even when humans fail. And as the prophets continue speaking, the picture becomes even clearer. They do not merely speak of a temporary rescue or a short-term political fix. They speak of a coming ruler, a servant, a shepherd, a deliverer, a king. And they describe a kingdom connected to him that does not end, a throne established forever, a dominion that will not pass away, a kingdom that will not be destroyed. That is important for the storyline because if the promised king reigns forever and his kingdom never ends, then the hope of the Bible must be bigger than temporary survival. It must be bigger than a brief improvement in human history. It raises a massive question. What kind of life would people need in order to share in a kingdom that never ends? Because the Bible does not present human beings as possessing unending life independently from God. God is the source of life. So if God is promising an unending kingdom under an everlasting king, then the people who share in that kingdom need life that God himself provides. Life fit for a kingdom that never ends. They need more than religion, more than moral improvement, more than temporary rescue. They need life. So the pattern becomes clear. The written record is narrowing our focus from humanity to Abraham's family to Judah to David to a coming king whose kingdom does not end. The Bible's story is not wandering aimlessly. It's moving toward a promised person, someone who can deal with the serpent, bring blessing to the nations, reign as king, bring restoration, and give humanity the life only God can provide. Life fit for a kingdom that never ends. So by the time we reach the New Testament, and are introduced to a man named Jesus who makes bold and extraordinary claims, the question is not coming out of nowhere. The question is not simply, who is Jesus? The question is, could this man be the promised person the written record has been pointing to? And the New Testament opens by connecting Jesus directly to this storyline. He is presented as the son of David, the son of Abraham, the promised king, the one through whom God's plan to restore what was lost comes into focus. But that raises the next question. What did Jesus actually claim? What did he say about himself? And what did he promise to give? That is what we're going to explore next time. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a like. And if you want to keep following this series, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks to everyone who makes this ministry possible. And as always, when reading your Bible, remember to keep it in context.